Okay, guys, I think, we have to start. And this is our online discussion number 7. The topic for this online discussion is extremely valuable, I believe, in the current world. That's dealing with security and what is the current determination of the security in the world. I believe that for most of us, it would be very important to understand how exactly we are going to survive in the world and what shall be the kind of, the fields where we are going to protect our firms, maybe our families and our kind of, colleagues and our clients, of course. So our speaker today is Sorainen. I think that probably the most well-known lawyer in Baltics and Belarus. So Aku, I think during the last couple of years, experienced all different types of, security issues, especially, taking the last month in Belarus. And it would be quite interesting to understand how exactly his understanding of the security in the current world would actually work. Please, Aku.
No, thank you, Vlad, for the introduction. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
I can hear Aku.
Okay. Ludmila, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly, yes.
But Vlad, you can't? That's strange.
Aku, we still cannot hear you. It is actually quite strange. We heard you a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah, what about now?
I can hear you.
I unmuted and muted.
Nope.
Let's ask the participants to say what
we cannot hear Zoe as well.
Alexander, I see. Can
yes,
you hear?
I hear you well. Yes.
Sorry, it's my fault.
Okay. I don't know what to do more than now just start. So, Vlad, thank you very much for the introduction. I was kindly asked to discuss what determines security for law firms in current world. Is it money, people, relations, or something else? And I will now start with introducing my experience about dealing with the challenges this year, and then we will have a discussion. And I expect active participation from all of you, and hopefully everyone has something good to say. So first of all, I'd like to show you my presentation. Can you see this?
Yeah.
I start from this crisis time. What happened during the spring? So what were the elements of ensuring survival? And I have these 4 different headings that I want to briefly touch with you. So it was about leadership, about ensuring liquidity, taking care of the people, and taking care of the clients and continuity of the business. Let me see why it doesn't now move. Okay. So first of all, regarding this leadership, I think there has been an interesting concept of considering law firm leaders as do you consider yourself as a leader of a jazz band or a leader of a symphonic orchestra? And I would say that during the good times, during the good growth times, the law firm leader should ideally be a kind of a leader of a jazz band, that you give enough room for other players to play solo and improvise and kind of just ensure that somehow the band stays together, but there's a lot of freedom for people to improvise. During the crisis, the leadership has to change. And during the crisis, you see yourself becoming actually a symphonic orchestra leader, where everyone is playing from the notes perfectly in let's say in a perfect teamwork, and very little room for improvising, and solos are being played when you are giving a permit to play a solo. So this, I think, how the leadership needs to change when you enter from the good times to crisis. Now, whether a leader should consider, well, having this attitude of being optimist or realistic pessimist, I have seen many leaders fail who are constantly optimist, constantly believing that things will go actually better than they will go in the end, and they end up in deep troubles. So I think the best for a leader is to maintain this realistic, pessimistic view constantly and plan for the worst scenario. Our worst scenario was that we went back to looking what happened for us back in 2009, 2010, and we made our worst scenarios a bit worse than 11, 12 years ago, and made different scenarios on how things could go and what do we do when these different scenarios start to realize themselves. Now, as a leader also, it is very tempting to get drowned on all of this information, all of the rumors, all little bits of pieces of concerns and bad news from all around. So it is sometimes difficult to keep this big picture constantly on the site and know where you want to go. And for a leader, obviously, you have to know what's happening in the world, but never panic. And once this the situation changes, it is a bit tempting also for a leader to start to actually take a very active and proactive leadership, and it's very tempting to make decisions quickly without consulting all the relevant stakeholders, because you feel that there's an urgency of doing many things, big things, and you may feel that you don't have time to argue. You have so many worries, you don't have time to argue with other partners and other team managers about why this or that is good, so let's just do it. But it's very important to keep consult in advance with all partners, all team leaders, or heads of business services before you make any major decisions, especially if they are unpopular, because those are the people who then have to communicate these decisions to their team members, and you have to get them on the same boat with you. And in general, there's a need to increase communication much more than ever before. We started having these town hall meetings virtually in our firm in March, collecting all the people. We had never done it before, have these virtual meetings for all personnel and telling exactly how the firm is doing, what is happening with our revenue, how much money we have on the bank account, what is the workload of each office and each team, and how do we see the, let's say, next weeks and next weeks ahead. And this honest communication actually provided a very stable ground. I mean, there was no panicking in the firm. People understood that we know what we are doing, and they kind of cut the wings of any rumors in the firm, which is easy in the times of crisis. So we managed to maintain this trust because of very active communication, more active than ever before. Now, at the same time, during this crisis, I mean, there's the old saying that cash is king. So especially in times of what we saw in the last spring, and we already had a good revenue management processes. There was very little to actually enhance and improve there. But because of this very open communication with the personnel, we were also able to tell to everyone that, sorry, we were supposed to pay out 2019 bonuses in April. We told to everyone that, sorry, we are not going to pay it out now. we will have to ensure that we have the cash in the bank account. So we will come back to this paying out the bonuses in July, if things proceed, let's say, positively. And of course, that was against our HR team. I mean, I had a long discussions with our HR team, with many of the partners, that this is completely wrong. You cannot hold back, let's say, the promises of paying out 2019 bonuses. People did very well. It's not right not to pay them out. We are breaching our agreement. I said, I don't care about any agreements in a situation where this may be a question of life and death of the whole firm. And eventually everyone understood. And there was no, all personnel and all partners eventually understood that this is the way forward. And fortunately, things actually started to get better after this March and April, so to say, shock. And we were able to pay half of the bonuses already towards the end of April. And then we said that we will look at the rest of the bonuses in July. And actually in July, we paid all 2019 bonuses. So people were happy. Which I remember when we had one of these first town hall meetings with personnel that we are postponing the bonuses. And we had almost 300 people in the call. And one of the associates or senior associates in one of our offices, she said that she's been 10 years or she's been 15 years in this firm. And she knows already from the last financial crisis that we do what we promise. So we should not be worried about partners trying to get away from paying out the bonus. And that was extremely good. I mean, I felt so good about having kind of this credibility from the personnel that who have been long in the firm, saying that this firm keeps the promises. But then started the cost cutting. And here, what was very challenging was that, I mean, we started cost cutting of everything what was basically possible. Traveling, of course, team events, training, everything what can be done. And but here is a very perfect line that what is the essence of the firm? What kind of costs you don't want to cut, even if you can, because you start to hurt the essence of the firm. And we are currently discussing this with the partners that which are the costs which are important for the culture of the firm going forward, which actually make Sorainen. So don't touch this. And one of these is, of course, that we operate in 4 different countries. We have to keep on traveling when we can, because we have to build relations with people in the other offices. You cannot build relations online. You can perhaps maintain relations, but not build them. Well, there was, in EU countries, there was this financial support from the state and credit guarantees states started to offer. And we were also considering those. We started to talk with the bank that in case we need a loan, then can these state guarantees, what would be the interest rates and conditions if we use these state guarantees? Fortunately, we didn't need a bank loan. We still considered that the interest what they would have offered us was not worth to open a credit line. We considered the conditions a bit too high interest rates still under these conditions. But for those law firms that which kind of have this shortage of liquidity approaching and credit line is not possible, then of course they have to, and we have seen that many law firms in London, they stopped all payments to partners, and some of them even made a capital call from asking partners to pay money back to the firm. And this, I think, is always important to remember, that if you have to make a capital call from partners, then make it early enough when the firm is still doing fairly good. Because if you make it too late, then you will see that the partners may start to feel that this ship is already sinking, and then it's very difficult to get partners to pay money back to the firm. So fortunately, we didn't need that. And actually, I had a feeling back in 2019 already, over a year ago, that we should increase our capital contribution from the partners. And I had to make a lot of convincing to tell to the partners that it is we should. 2019 was or 2018 was a good year. That now let's not pay all dividends out, but let's increase capital contribution from the equity partners, and they all agreed. So that actually also provided a good buffer now when we exactly needed it. So at the end of the day, cash in the bank determines whether the firm survives or not. Now, when it's about the people and working conditions, first in March, everyone was sent home. We were very concerned what will happen with the work productivity when people go home. And actually, we were very surprised that at the end of the day, the work productivity has increased. So that really, I mean, people are, in general, they are billing more hours now at home than they were in the office. So that really makes we have to start to think seriously how much office space we actually need, and what this flexible working conditions, I mean, this is a serious thing going forward. It is there is no returning back that everyone is 5 days a week in the office. There's certainly no need for that. Some offices, I know we have not used those green, blue, yellow teams, but I know that some firms are having these different weeks, different days when different teams comes, and then there's a disinfection taking place. But I have to admit that in our offices we already have had 1, 2, 3 or perhaps even 4 COVID cases. And fortunately, those people who have been infected, they have been working mostly from home, so they have not contaminated any of the colleagues. But we have, after this, we have disinfected their working place and ensured that these are isolated cases. Now, how to ensure good working conditions at home? I mean, some people have taken their big screens home, some of them even their working chairs. So this is what we want to encourage people to do to ensure that this is the maximum comfort at home. We started in March measuring the mental health and kind of level of anxiety of people. And in the beginning, when this kind of first shock came, there was a bit increase. I think it was kind of 20%. Even people kind of indicated certain level of anxiety, while still the majority, by far the majority, was pretty happy. When going towards the May, actually the anxiety levels decreased, and people started increasing. They had got used to this working from home and actually felt very good. Now here, this kind of a crisis is like any crisis. Any change is a good opportunity to think that what is the core of the firm, because when it's a very strong growth for year after year, I mean, it is unavoidable that you sometimes hire people who are not the best match for the firm because just nobody else is available in the market. So if you have to make cuts, then this is an opportunity to actually consolidate the core team and ask those people to leave who are not the best match for the firm. Now the last point here is that if you would have to let people go or reduce salaries, then it is old wisdom that try to make one cut at the one time and then don't do further cuts. It is people, they kind of after they get the first shock of any reductions or cuts, after the first shock they will get over with it, and business will continue as usual. But if you continue making small cuts, small reductions, then you kind of constantly keep this atmosphere of insecurity. And this is what you don't want to do. If there continues this atmosphere of insecurity, then eventually you will kind of contaminate the whole firm, and the best people will start to leave because they think the ship is sinking, and you will end up having with the people whom actually you would have wanted to leave in the first place. Now, the continuity of the business during this crisis, so this is an opportunity to really show to the clients that you care for them. This is the golden opportunity to earn the trust of your clients. And share best practice, support, advise the clients, whatever you can, free of advice if needed. Always accept the clients' calls and concerns. And understand the thing that, I mean, even if in the good times, you have to be very quick at replying to clients when you get requests from them. During this crisis, you have to be even 2 times quicker because the clients probably have even more worries and concerns than you do. So be very quick to communicate that you got the request, you got the assignment, you will deal with it, you will come back tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Or otherwise you have just added one more thing for the clients to worry when they don't know whether you are on it or not. And this year has been a great opportunity to actually create new business development and marketing plans, because this is the year for innovation. And I have seen so many different innovation happening also in our firm. People trying out different things, being much more active on trying out and keeping contacts with the clients than for ages before. So that is actually a good part of it. And even if the market is shrinking, this is a great opportunity to increase the market share, because things are changing. This is when opportunities arise. And it's always good to keep, let's say, good talking relations with your peers and see how they are doing, how they are surviving these strange times. So this was the first part of my introduction about the surviving the crisis. And then after you have done the surviving part, which I think was last spring, now getting to this autumn season, then what can you do to ensure this continuous success of the firm? And here again, I think these 4 elements are in the picture. So first of all, continue focusing on the leadership. The crisis was a great opportunity to get the alignment. So don't let the alignment now slip off your fingers. I mean, we have had great good years behind, and when you have many great growth years behind, it's easy for many people to start to think that the success is easy. They have their own way to do the success. I mean, why do they need the firm policies? What is this? What's in the firm strategy for them? I mean, there's a kind of an increasing selfishness in a way during these continued good times. And it has been difficult to always keep people aligned behind the strategy and the values of the firm. So during the crisis, it is much more easier to consolidate people. So keep them consolidated. This is the time to strengthen the corporate culture. And ensure transparent decisions. When whatever you need to do, ensure that they are always done on the benefit of the whole firm and clients, instead of some teams, some offices, or some individuals. And that will maintain the trust to the leadership. And continue prioritizing. Many different innovations, opportunities arise, and you have to deal with this increased amount of challenges. So constantly go through what is the list of priorities. And during these times, many changes are needed. It is an opportunity to make many changes. And I have learned not to try to change the whole firm at the same time. but to try to identify those people who welcome the change, and involve those people who welcome the change, start piloting with them, and prove the business case. And once you prove the business case, then roll out the change to the whole firm, or one team, or one office at a time. And focusing on the leadership is that this is also the time when sharing experience, sharing knowledge is more important than ever before, because so many things are happening, so many good practices are emerging somewhere. You have to quickly grasp those best practices and ensure that the whole firm benefits from those best practices. So you need people to share their experience and knowledge much more than ever before. And finally, as always, this is not only this time of this year, but always you have to choose leaders very carefully and making promotions very carefully in order to promote the right type of role models. Now, adjusting the strategy, I mean, earlier I mentioned that it sometimes is a bit difficult to implement the law firm strategy in good years when everybody is successful anyhow, almost despite whatever they do, they are successful. So it's sometimes challenging to implement that we have a mutual strategy which in the long term should be best for all. But whatever the strategy is, try to change it as little as possible in good times and bad times. But of course now when this crisis comes, you start to improvise. You have to put the strategy aside for a while, improvise to survive the crisis and the change time, and then once situation normalizes a bit, then you bring back the strategy and you continue implementing. And you remind all the partners that our strategy is what it is. Let's get back to working on it. And during the crisis time, the best strategy is just to offer excellent client service and ensure everyone is hungry for business. So that is always the best strategy. Don't need to be more complicated than that. Now, it started already last spring, but it is constantly the opportunity to build the dream team now. When the change is happening, there's more movement in the market. Also, there's more movement of talent in the market than during good times. So even if you cannot offer immediately a full workload for new people, be ready to hire them if those are the talents what you have been looking for and which were not in the move before. But this is the time also to remember that the biggest asset of the firm is the people and the reputation. These are the two preconditions for having great clients. Great people, great reputation is a precondition for having great clients. Sometimes we think that the clients come first, but it is the people and it's the reputation which always comes first. And this is the moment to expect everyone to be driven and reach the top, and collaboration. It takes, there are studies that it takes 10,000 hours to become a world-class expert at something, whatever you want to be. And it takes a lot of guts to put that amount of hours, but the quicker you put it, the longer career you have ahead of you to compete in the market. And always reminding the lawyers and partners especially that you are competing with the market. You are not competing with your colleagues in the firm, but you have to collaborate. You have to share knowledge, you have to share cases and clients, everything. You have to share resources, team members with the others constantly. And constantly be selective on now when there's a change, when you have talent in the market, that what kind of changes you can do in your organization, who are the people who should stay, who should be leaving, so that you constantly build the dream team. And remembering that when you have to depart with someone, it must be done gracefully in a positive way, as positive it can be, so that you kind of build a loyal alumni. The alumni, UK law firms have understood it already for a long time that this alumni is a big source of revenue and business for them and goodwill. So if you manage that poorly, this is maybe a big loss of revenue and reputation for the firm. And finally, give back to the society. And for us, it has been starting from identifying what is the core purpose of the firm. And it can't be just making money. I mean, everyone needs a bigger core purpose for coming to work every morning. For us, it's about 5 years ago, we identified that for our firm, it's increasing prosperity in the Baltic states and Belarus by helping clients succeed in business. And that has actually many messages. It's interesting how many messages it has. First of all, it has this social aspect that we want to increase prosperity in the region. We define the region, it's Baltic states and Belarus. It is not beyond it. We don't have aspiration to grow beyond our region. And it is by helping clients succeed in business. It also defines that we are in business law. We are not in other fields of law. And this actually has helped us to select also clients very carefully. And it happens every year that we don't approve certain assignments and certain clients because we feel that their core purpose is in conflict with our core purpose. And that is actually a very powerful message for the whole partnership, that we select the business, what we do based on this. But what did this core purpose actually mean for us during this year? So in March, we launched this shared mission program, and we kind of made an announcement that startup companies can apply for support from us if they have a business concept, business idea that is around this dealing with this COVID challenge. And I think we got about 15 different applications, and we selected 6 startup companies who had some business idea how to deal with this COVID, and we provided them with 100,000 euros worth of free advice. And that has been very successful. Actually, it started as a shared mission that we are providing this to the society. Some of those startup companies have actually become big clients for us. And actually the revenue beyond then after this pro bono part was over actually has already exceeded what was the pro bono part, which was a surprise to us. I mean, it was not meant to be so. Then also we launched a series of these webinars, more than 20 webinars in March and April in 4 countries, helping not only our clients, but any company. They could sign into our webinars, how to survive and overcome this COVID challenge. And we had over 6,000 participants in March and April. I was quite amazed. I mean, we made them on weekly basis, almost on weekly basis in each 4 countries. So this is actually my introduction to this topic, and these were the headings. And now I would like to discuss that. How do you feel about these topics? Would you like to add something? Do you have a different opinion on something? Perhaps Soja, I would like to ask first of you that which of these topics did you find interesting?
Well, all of the topics are very interesting. I feel very privileged actually to be able to get this information from you. I've always thought that you have brilliant ideas, and that my vision of you as a leader of a law firm actually is a vision of someone who always have a very good accountancy of all the factors. So I was wondering while I was listening to your presentation, you've mentioned about measuring the levels of anxiety. So I was going to ask you, do you actually have any kind of tool to measure these levels of anxiety? Because I think here it was quite an issue because we've been confined at home for over 2 months. And in Spain, it's been quite strict because we could not actually leave our homes, not even for a walk, which I must say, I think in the first months especially, it was quite depressive, and it was very difficult to, you know, just to shift your mentality and the approach to work. And I think that a lot of people felt depressed and disappointed, maybe, I don't know, or just could not you know, get back on the working track. But I also think that when we got confined, our firm started to have 3 times a week online meetings just to discuss how everyone is feeling, how's the work going. But I was trying to recall, and I think that no one really shared that feel of anxiety. I think it must maybe also a cultural thing. I think here people are kind of, you expect people to be always happy and smiling. So I was wondering, how do you measure these levels? Because it's not always easy to get into what's really going on in someone else's life.
Yeah, we had there was a tool. I don't remember what was the name of it, but if you remind me, I can send you, our HR can send you a link, information about this tool. And it basically had, I think, 1 or 2 questions only. And one of those questions was that, how do you feel? How do you feel? Well, such as that. And it was I feel anxious. I feel, let's say, partly bad. I'm pretty okay. I'm quite okay. I'm very okay. Basically, that was on a scale of 5. And it was interesting actually to find differences between the offices. I mean, Estonia was, I think, scored the highest. I mean, the highest, so to say, satisfaction being remote and not being with the people. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Lithuania that had a bit more anxiety in the beginning and less happiness in the beginning. And it may be that Lithuanians are a bit more, so to say, social. They are a bit more socially active people than Estonians, who are often tend to be pretty happy on their own, alone. So that can be kind of a pretty interesting kind of a cultural differences came out from the first in March. But I think towards the end, it was it started to balance out. More similar results came out, but at the same time, you constantly had some people who were just few, maybe 2-3% who showed very high anxiety. So maybe it may be that there were small children in the home, they could not concentrate on the work, or it may be that they were very extroverts, that they really need people around in order to feel happy. We have not studied in more carefully. This was anonymous. We don't know who people are replying what. But then also we started to provide people with access to psychology services if they wanted. Provided them with some other mindfulness, mental health links to information, advice, these apps. There were several initiatives from the HR to help people to deal with that.
So this tool was
Great.
anonymous then?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other? Alexander Bolkvatsev, from which country are you from? You are muted. You are muted.
Now
Yes, now we can hear.
Yeah.
From which
yes,
country
I'm
are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia, okay.
Yes.
Is there any heading topic here that you felt interesting and you want to share your experience?
Yeah, okay. I listened to your presentation with interest. Just let me put the screen properly. Just 1 second. Okay. So I listened to with the interest your presentation. Thank you very much. And I was really trying to identify, you know, during these troubled times, what we have done in the firm, what we have not done. And to some extent, you know, like I agree with you. We have done most of the things you have mentioned, starting from you know, leadership issues and being realistic, continuing with the issues of getting invoices fast, postpone payments of bonuses and dividends, cutting costs, and etc. and etc. You know, this is also time to consider the alignment. And one point you mentioned was very interesting, actually, for growing up the business down the line, was that you advertised for free pro bono work for startups, you know, and this is a good point to consider for us, and we will consider doing it. Moreover, you mentioned that whatever you spend, you just it would pay it back, and that's definitely a good point to consider for growing the business. You know, I spoke with my partners, you know, like how to you know, increase the activity. But all of us agreed that during this time, it was very, very uneasy to go to a company and offer the legal services. You know, like all of them have faced the reduction of the business. Many of them fired their employees. They cut costs as us, same as us, and now you go and propose the business. You propose the legal services. So it would have been very awkward situation. But we never considered this point of offering free service to the startups.
Yeah.
With and this in the future it can work out. As for Georgia, you know, for many months we were very lucky to have the lowest number. Sorry, are you following me? You hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for many months we've been very lucky to have very small number of COVID cases. We had one of the best results in the region, I would say. Slightly up were even the countries which are half of our size. Georgia is very small, but Estonia is the half of our size, but they had more cases. Unfortunately, these recently have changed. You know, when we had COVID cases, like a daily number of infected people, it was like 8 people, 10 people, 12 people. Today we have 500. So basically, at one point we handled it well, and now it's sort of, I think it came to Georgia, the COVID and big number of infected people. So basically, before we enjoyed a COVID-free environment, you know, like if we had cases, there were not cases in the capital, for example. You mentioned that you had COVID cases even within the firm, but we until very recently didn't have any case even in Tbilisi, you know, like but now it has changed, unfortunately. Of course, it will prompt the limitation of the business activity, more careful, you know, waiting on the possibilities. So let's see. But in any case, Whatever you mentioned, I can say that it was very interesting, but I was taking in notes, and I have full notes here, that most of the things we have considered, and it was, we took very kind of prudent attitude, prudent approach.
Very good. There is one thing what you mentioned about this difficult to now go to clients and ask business because they are facing these reductions themselves. I think this is a great opportunity in a way to think, how are we providing services nowadays? Because I mean, it is typical that we lawyers, we are very conservative on how we conduct the business. I mean, how we do the work, and most partners will say that, I mean, everything has to be made tailor-made for the clients. It's very difficult to automate anything. It's very difficult to create, so to say, automated processes or automated documents for that sake for certain services. Whereas during these kind of crisis times, I mean, if we would have more services automated, for example, employment agreements or this laying off people, automating the whole set of documents, I mean, we could provide it so much cheaper, so much faster. And I'm sure that clients would be ready to pay for it if it's just what they need with a suitable price. And then focus on providing these more value-added services still on the tailor-made ways.
Yes.
We have started now this automation process. I'm very happy of it. It's difficult to get the partners resources to do document automation, but once they do it, I mean, they're very happy about it.
What example? What is exactly that? Can you give me an example?
You mean document automation?
For example,
You mean examples of what kind of documents to automate?
Yes, services, sort of service.
Yeah.
Service.
Well, any let's say document which you need, which you use, let's say often enough during the year, that is worthwhile the effort of making, first of all, a master template, collecting all your templates from the office, put them into one master template, and then automate it. I mean, we have done employment agreements, laying off people, starting companies, or shareholders' decision documentation, share purchase agreement. Currently, we are working on shareholders agreement. Oh, share purchase agreement, yes, shareholders agreement. Lease, a commercial lease agreement, so on and so forth. I mean, there's endless opportunities what you can automate. But
okay, this is what you mean. Okay, I understand. I also forgot to mention that we have recently sort of did the joint activity with the auditing firm for sort of providing. It's sort of in a form of proposal now. We are gonna that's joint services in troubled times. You know, like jointly for reducing their costs, sort of like that. I don't know how it will work. I was not involved personally in putting the scope together, but this is what we have done. I will look at it in more detail, and I will see whether it will work or not.
Okay, very good.
Nico, I have a question to you. First of all, will you be able to share the presentation with us? Because that would be very, very helpful. And the second question is, if you prioritized with connection with this kind of, security issues, how would you put them? People, money, clients, or whatever would be the sequence for you? Because you said we need to prioritize, right?
Yes. So first of all, I mean, you have to ensure you have money in the bank account. That is the number one thing, because if you run out of the money in the bank account, then that's the end of the game. And the second thing is to ensure the security of the people. I mean, now putting everyone working remotely to ensure their safety. So this is what you start from, and then of course you have this is the infrastructure. You have money, you have people, then you can continue providing services. If you
Right.
don't have money, you don't have people, then you cannot provide services.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Can I intervene?
Sure.
My name is Roger Glade. I'm running Glade and Partners law firm in Moldova. Just following up on what Alex touched upon on the issue of, and what Mr. Sorainen also referred to, the issue of free webinars in the times of COVID. I can share our experience, and I think that it is relevant and interesting for many countries in the region, because in our case, our initiative was supported by an IFI, by a development partner, as we call them. This is EBRD. And we've designed a series of webinars for the small and medium enterprises. They've selected the topics, the small and medium enterprises, primarily from the countryside, from the rural areas, which would otherwise have no access to the qualified legal advice. And then they've come up with that list of interesting for them questions. And the point is that when you secure a support of an IFI, it's easier for you because you kind of have a better visibility, because this is an IFI which is present in all the, at least the operation countries of EBRD, including all the countries we see our participants from. And from the myriad of many webinars which are now around, this is giving you a first kind of a legitimacy, if you want, because people will know that if a big name is involved, then the quality is somehow secure. So you can, on the one side, secure some support. This is not tons of money. You will not live out of that, but you will be able at least to cover your costs. And then you reach out a bigger audience. And you basically, I saw that with the main outcome of that was that on the one side, you basically kind of fulfilled your social mandate. And I like Mr. Sorainen touched upon this. I think that we all have this duty to contribute to the wealth of our societies, which, as I said, otherwise the small medium companies may not have access to the qualified legal advice. On the other side, you secured kind of a rainmaking, because we've noticed, we have this seminar some months ago, and we noticed that companies started to approach us thereafter. And yes, we created the, let's say, special pricing for them, because these are mostly startups or small companies, but we agreed to support them, and it started already to pay off from all perspectives.
Very good. Thank you for sharing this example with us.
Okay.
Any other? I see good old friend Andrei Zelenin here as well on the screen. Andrei, would you like to share some comments on the topics? Andrei, you are muted. I cannot hear you.
Let's give a chance. Maybe someone else would like to add.
Igor Lifshitz. Hey, Igor, can you hear us? Also muted.
He's muted.
Has to unmute.
Let's give last
Hello.
opportunity. Yeah, Igor.
Can you? Hi.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah,
How are you?
great. Great.
So,
For some reasons, well, here I am. Yes. Nice of seeing you guys.
nice seeing you. Any of these topics that you found interesting and want to discuss?
Well, Aku, in fact, I'm very impressed of your presentation, to be frank. First of all, that was, I would say, honest enough, comparatively to all of the businesses we are facing, for example, here in Finland. Especially, I fully agree that if it comes to the point of the cash flow in the company, the first issue would be definitely to keep the people running the business. I mean, running the the legal matters for the clients. And if the clients are happy, then people will remain in the company. And it gives a lot of opportunities for the cash flow as well. If it comes to me personally, surprisingly, those challenging times happen to be not only very active, but very successful for myself. We have got a lot of new clients and a lot of new assignments, including very good new potentially growing businesses even in Finland from the perspective of a lot of foreign investors. That is very, for me at least, it was very, very surprising. We have discussed it a lot before with, for example, with Vlad, and I know how the things are going on in their business, and it's challenging time. I truly believe that it won't last long, or at least I hope. The one thing what I personally miss, I mean, really contact with the people in person, because everyone is fed up with all the offline, online conferences, webinars, corresponding. We have missed the conference which is which was planned in December in Moscow. We have missed a lot of, IBA issues, annual conference as well. So basically that is one of the most things which bothers me at the moment, not because we are overloaded with the job.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else want to say something here?
I think we shall thank everyone for actively participating. Today we actually managed to get a discussion because our participants were very active, which is always nice. I will allow myself to thank you, Aku, especially very much. Your presentation was really interesting. As always, very useful. And I will just make a quick announcement of the next session. So next week we will have an open talk. I hope this will really be an open talk and everyone can join, turn their camera on, and at least we get this feel of virtual but a meeting and a discussion between friends and colleagues, because we obviously miss socializing a lot. And so we will be just making a summary or, like a share views and opinions just in the form again of an open talk. So we welcome everyone to join next week. This discussion will be moderated by Alexander Stepanovsky, who is a managing partner of Stepanovsky, Papakul and Partners, attorneys at law from Minsk, Belarus. Will be especially interesting to hear his opinion as well, as Belarus is passing through difficult times. And again, everyone is welcome. We will be glad to see you, glad to hear you. And thanks everyone who joined, and thank you for participating. And we wish you a pleasant evening and a beautiful weekend that's about to come. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Soja.
Next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.